tours, official business and appointments, house and senate gatherings, restaurant.
ഈ ബിൽഡിംഗ് എന്തൊരു കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ. അയ്യോ തകിട ഉരുക്ക് സാധനം കേട്ടോ.
Story is larger and larger. For example, if you're invited to dinner at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, you might get excited and have dinner at the White House. And if you're invited to dinner at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Southeast, don't get that excited because the closest restaurant is McDonald's. So again, you really have to pay attention to directionals. And coming up on your left, the International Spy Museum. The museum showcases the history of espionage from Moses to the Cold War. If you look through the windows on the ground floor to your left, you'll see a very recognizable sports car. It's a 1964 DB5 Aston Martin. It's the same car that James Bond drove in the movie Goldfinger. Just ahead of us is Benjamin Banneker Park. We'll be stopping pretty close to it. Benjamin Banneker was born a free African American in our country. He was an astronomer, he was a surveyor. George Washington built statues located in it. Now I'll be honest with you, until I became a tour guide, I really didn't know the difference between a monument and a memorial. Especially since you hear newscasters just use the two all the time. Monument is planned while the person's still alive. Memorials planned after the person's passed away. So the only true monument on the National Mall, the Washington Monument, was planned while George Washington was still alive. The construction of it dated 50 years after George Washington passed away. Now Washington, D.C. is considered to be the last colony. We're not officially U.S. state or U.S. territory. Freeway after our 34th president, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Because during Eisenhower's administration, he was responsible for a lot of our major interstate freeway systems across the country. Eisenhower traveled the world, very influenced by the design of the Autobahn. Now on your left is the Department of Housing and Urban Development, better known as HUD, and it's another great example of that brutalistic architectural style. Now the eve of war, and here during the summer months, we have free jazz concerts every Friday evening that are open to the public. During the winter months, it's outdoor ice skating treatment center. So, my favorite time to go.
Tower. Now we're going to talk about that later because this is the fastest service signal in the DC area. We had to get rid of this. Yeah. All right, to the left is the Holocaust Museum. You'll see some furniture down here, a house turned upside down, representing 6 million Jews that lost their lives and how their world was turned upside down. Also, you'll see a tree or a cross back there. That represents the tidal basin. See those blue color boats back there? That's the best thing going. The tidal basin was built in the early 1800s. It was built for the pleasure of all people, although it was not so pleasurable where it was. Because these have diving boards out there. People were diving into the tidal basin doing belly flippers and somersaults, only to find out what concussion protocol really means. That's right, because the water is only 10 feet deep. Oh my God, so much more. But about 5 months ago, it took about 3 hours. The reason why we were at the peak of cherry blossom season, oh my God. Do you know over 2 billion people come here every year for cherry blossom season? You see these leaves turn pink, red, purple, blue, and white? Oh my God, they come here. Because of Miss Ellie Sizemore, who for 3 decades tried to get cherry blossom trees here. Could not get it done until she met First Lady Ellie Taft. First Lady Taft flew somewhere in Japan, and in 2 days they sent over 2,000 trees. That first 2,000 was infected with insects and then burnt. The mayor quickly apologized and then sent 3,200 more over it. Now you have cherry blossom season right here in Washington. If you look to those columns to the right, you'll see a memorial or a statue of one of our founding fathers. That is Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, we call him our 1, 2, 3 president. First he was Secretary of State, then he was the Vice President, then he was the number 3 president. It was Thomas Jefferson that wrote the Declaration of Independence. He also was one of the architects for the DC area. He also was from Virginia, and he was the founder of Virginia University. He also helped with the Louisiana Purchase, where they helped double the size of this country. Now next stop is stop number 8. Stop number 8. We don't have a old Tom Charlie sign that's Virginia. He wrote the Virginia Declaration of Rights. When Thomas Jefferson read it, it inspired him in writing the Declaration of Independence. Probably inspired him because both of us are Virginians. They basically was probably saying about the same thing. Anybody getting out today? Okay, well we're going to keep it moving then. Yeah. So we're going to go straight and through the few earthquakes that we've had. Stood the test of time, like the first president that is represented, and that is Jonathan and George Washington. assassinated. Up top, they call it embedded. You have 48 states up top. You go all the way around the picture, you would see your state. Or if you go up the steps, you will see the flag with Alaska and Hawaii. Now, when Lincoln was in office, he made sure that the USDA and Agriculture Department was fully up and running because he didn't want his fellow farmers to get left behind the rest of the country. He also instituted the first income tax and wanted to make sure he had a way to pay for the Civil War. And last but not least, he instituted one of the favorite holidays. Everybody knows one is May. If you got a close look, you'll be able to tell the difference because the Army and the Marines have hard hats. The Navy and the Air Force have those cloth caps. So you'll be able to tell the difference between their headwear. Also, you can tell by the different weaponry that they carry and their uniforms. You see that statue there? That is John Ericsson. John Ericsson was a Swedish engineer that helped rejuvenize the Navy forces. He invented what they call a screw propeller. Before that, it was like row your boats in the tidal basin. They call it the jewel because now the memorials are facing the tidal basin, so they call this the jewel of the front that this war was fought on. There's 56 columns out there, 48 represent states, the rest are territories, and you have the Philippines. You see reefs on the front and back represent agriculture and industry. And there's a back wall back there. That back wall has 4,085 stars, gold stars, on that back wall. Each star represents 100 lives that were lost during that war. A total of over 500,000 people died during World War II. Once again, war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. Oh! Okay, that's it. I got it. That was a year, and they paid him $50. Now imagine standing in that little house for 20 years. Then imagine you stand there with a wife, a mother-in-law, and 13 children. Oh my God! Come on, man! Listen, with 13 children, a wife and a mother-in-law, you can't even have a man. World War II, so they had it reefs on both sides. They were writing down at the bottom that just said 4 are dead. Over 71,000 second infantry lost their lives during that war. Now here to the left, this is the south lawn of the White House. This is where providing and rediscovering. And then the next one talks about the different sporting icons and entertainment icons. Entertainment icons like J.J. Walker, yeah, Dynamite. And if you're going into the museum, you'll get out and stop at them. And I want to see this young person here. I'm going to have him come in and those that need tickets. I think she's a line cutter building. That's actually Ford Theater. And over here to the right where you see the security guard sitting, that is the Peterson's mansion or house. This is where they took President Lincoln after he was shot. They knew he was not going to make it back to the White House with his wounds. So they provided him a bed right here, and this is where he died at 7:22 the next morning, without ever regaining consciousness. He died there one day before Easter. All right, so here, this is stop 13. This is the welcome center. Anybody getting out here? And don't worry, I will have somebody come on and give y'all your stickers. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. All right, so y'all hold on tight. Anybody getting up? Lined up all around this boardwalk, it's about 120 of them. But
Io 25.
però ogni giorno devi vedere questo lato. Per questo ogni tanto questa parte che si usa
നടന്ന് കാണാനാണെങ്കിൽ ശരിക്കും നല്ല നടന്നു പോകണം.
But he did not make the proper accommodations to go to the White House. Inside is one of the array of different exhibits dedicated to the United States White House's history as a home and a place of diplomacy here in Washington. Now over here on my left, this is Freedom Plaza. Freedom Plaza was originally named Western Plaza, but was renamed Freedom on account of Martin Luther King leading his followers here for his march for jobs and freedom, where he famously said, "I have a dream." You'll see the Black Building Act. The Building Act dictates that a building cannot be taller than the road it stands on is wide. So that's why all of the buildings here on Pennsylvania Avenue are the tallest, but hold on, I hear you saying. What about this guy? Wait! D.C. This is our Capitol building. The Capitol is home to our House of Representatives as well as our Senate. If you're ever curious as to whether the House or the Senate are in session for the day, you need look no further than the two wings on either side and the flagpoles across the wings. If those flags are raised, that means the House and or the Senate are in session for the day. I have a conductor friend of mine that likes to make the joke that when the flags are down, the government has
ഈ തടി ചീഞ്ഞ ഒരു മണം.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಟ್ರೈನ್